Hello everybody, welcome to our today's session. First chapter of history, histography and the development in the West. In our first session we have studied the histography, the writing of the study of the writing of the history, how the histography is written after critically examining the things, scientific proof, etc. We have studied in the histography traditional histography. In the traditional histography we have studied that tradition traditional histography. In the tradition time there was no term of histography prevalent in the society, that but it does not mean that the people of the ancient societies were not eager to know the history of their past, their ancestors. They have also found the need to pass the information to the next generation. They were using another means of communication, like that they were using the cave paintings, storytelling, singing songs, ballad. In this way oral and some paintings, and in this way they were trying to provide the information about the deeds of their ancestors, the great valor of their ancestors, to the next generation. In our modern histography, now today we will start modern histography. How the modern histography, what are the characteristics of the modern histography? Here four characteristics are mentioned. Now let's see that first characteristics. Its method is based on the scientific principles. It begins with the formation of relevant questions. Means modern histography is based on the scientific principles. Means if we are having the scientific proof with us, then only the people will trust and the historian will believe on the reliability of the history of that event. So these began with the formation of the relevant questions. Means they will ask us such relevant questions to us. Means those are trying to write the history, or those are trying to show the information to the further people. So now see here, so in this modern histography, scientific principles and the formation of relevant question is the very important method. It is the first point. Second point is given, these questions are anthropocentric. Anthropocentric, it means that these questions are about the deeds of the members of the ancient human societies of a particular period. Here it is said that human deeds of the members of the ancient human societies of a particular period is very important, and what deeds they have done. So there is interrelation of the divine power or human deeds, god and goddess. Is it like that? See, in the earlier time there was a lot of impact on the religious things on the society, but history does not suggest any interrelation between the divine and the human deeds. Means some things are going on in that there is a connection of the divine and the human deeds. Is in the modern histography it is not believed. Number third point is given that answers to these questions are supported by the reliable evidence. Means whatever questions are arising in front of us regarding the particular event, that time all the answers, that answer should be reliable evidence. Means there should be proper support, scientific support, proof should be there. And if somebody is getting success to satisfy all the questions answers of the people, then only it is called as the real history. Number fourth is said that history present a graph of mankind's journey with the help of past human deeds. So a history, it is showing the graph of journey of past deeds of human being. So see here, we have seen in our earlier classes the history of ancient man, how the ancient man he was living, and how slowly he was developing the living style. So he has invented wheel, invention of fire. Then he was forming the society, he was living in a society, and then afterwards he started to do the agriculture. In this way, his deeds like that, in the history also presents a graph of mankind's journey. So these ancient man history is just give an example to make you understand that in our modern historiography also, in the modern historiography also, the people they are presenting the graph of the mankind journey with the help of its past human deeds. It is said that the modern historiography with above characteristics has its roots in the ancient Greek historical writing. So we find all the modern historiography roots in the Greek historical writing. History, it's originally a Greek term. So history, this word is came from the Greek. It is originally a Greek term, it is said. Herodotus, the Greek historian of the 5th century BCE, used it first for his book entitled The Histories. So Herodotus, he is a Greek historian, and he has mentioned the word first in his book entitled The Herodotus. In which century? 5th century BC, before Common Era. Now the development of the scientific perspective in Europe and the historiography, that we will start. Till the 18th century CE Common Era, Europe had achieved a remarkable progress in the field of philosophy and the science. So European countries, they had made a remarkable progress in the field of science and the philosophy. Scholars by then had come to believe in the possibility of studying the social and historical truth by applying scientific methods. So these all the scholars, they were believing in applying the method of science, scientific method. Means if we are studying the social life and if we are trying to know the historical truth, then you have to find out the scientific method. You cannot believe on anything, any information. If you are having the reliable proof, then only it is considered as the real history. So scientific method is applied in the European countries. Now the philosophical discussions focused more and more on the objectives of the history and historiography. Prior year to the 18th century, all European universities were interested only in the philosophical discourse revolving around divine phenomena. See, in the earlier time, 18th century, there was a lot impact of the religious things on the social life. Not only the social life, but everywhere we find the religious impact. Means church. In that European countries, church was getting a lot importance. So judiciary, administration, social life, everywhere there was a religion, there was impact of the religion. However, gradually this scenario began to change. 1737 CE, the Göttingen University was founded in Germany. This university for the first time had an independent department of history. Later on, the German universities also became center of historical studies. So afterwards, the phenomena was going to change. In the year 1737 CE Common Era, in the German university, the name of the university is Göttingen University, they have founded a separate independent department for the history. And then later on, the German universities became the centers of historical studies. Now we will see the next point is the notable scholars. In the contribution of many scholars are important in the development of the historiography. Let us have a look at the contribution of the few notable scholars. We have to study the work of the notable scholars in the Europe. First is given the René Descartes. His birth year is 1596 and died in the 1650. René Descartes was a foremost among scholars who insisted on verifying the reliability of the historical document by critically examining them. So Rene Descartes, he has given focus on the critically examining, means if you are having any information, then verify it first. You have to find out the reliability of that historical document. How we can find out? By critically examining them. Among the rules given by him in his book Discourse on the Method. So Rene Descartes, he has written a book. The name of the book is Discourse on the Method. Children, underline name of the writer also and his book also, because for 2 mark it can come in the do as directed. So the following is supposed to have a great impact on the scientific method of research. Never accept anything for truth till all grounds of doubt are excluded. So in his book he has mentioned that we there was a great impact on scientific method of research. You cannot accept anything till grounds of doubt are clear. So if you are having little bit doubt also regarding that thing, then by the scientific proof you have to prove that thing, then only you have to consider it is the real history. Now next scholar is the Voltaire. Voltaire's original name was the Francois Marin Aruet. He was French. He opened that along with objective truth and chronology of historical event, considering social tradition, trade, economy, agriculture, etc., was also equally important in the historiography. So Voltaire, he was having his opinion that of course there is a chronology of historical events. We have studied the chronology, means the things which are taking place and what is the correlation between that things. We have to arrange the things in the chronological order that we have studied in our first session. So along with that things and the truth of that object, along with that thing, we have to give focus on the social life also, social life of the human being, like trade, traditions, economy, agriculture. These things also we have to consider, we have to think. So he says that was equally important in historiography. It gave rise to the thought that understanding all aspects of human life is important for writing history. Thus, it is said that Voltaire was the founder of the modern historiography. So he says that along with that all the things, scientific proof and such, all the things are very important, but along with that, if you are writing history, then we have to understand all the aspects of human life. That is also very important. All the aspects, social life, trade, economy, agriculture, these things also very important while writing history. So that's why Voltaire, he is known as the founder of the modern historiography. Now next scholar is that George William Friedrich Hegel. Now what is his opinion? His birth year is 1770 and 1831. In that year he was died. Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted that the historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. So Hegel, he was a German philosopher, and he has insisted that history should present in a logical manner. There should be logic. Without logic we cannot accept the truth. To him, the timeline of the historical event was indicative of progress. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new. So he was thinking that timeline is very important, because he said that today what is the truth possibility in the history, tomorrow that will prove wrong because of the another resources. As I have informed you in our earlier chapter, in earlier session also, same chapter earlier session also, I have told you that today in the social studies, in the science, whatever laws are made by the scientists, they can true all the time, but such laws are not true all the time in the history. These laws are changing time to time as the social changes took place, that laws also changing. So same thought Hegel also want to say. evidence would come forth. So he is also saying that according to time, that evidence would come to change, and in this way the laws will also change. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they different though they differed from scientific method. So Hegel's philosophy, Hegel's ideology is accepted by many other scholars. They were also agreed to the point. The collection of his lectures and articles in the is published in a book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Science. His book Reason in History is well known. So Hegel, his articles were published in a book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Science, and again his book name is Reason in History. So children, again I am saying you remember the names of the writer and their books. Now here some additional information is also given. It is good to know. According to Hegel, grasping the meaning of any event happens in term of direct two direct opposites. Human mind cannot understand the truth nature of that event without understanding the opposite. For example, true, false, bad, good, etc. So here Hegel want to say that we have to understand the direct opposite things. Means suppose any event or anything is in front of you, you have to check in both the direction also, in the positive direction as well as in the negative direction also. So here he has given example human mind, how it is. Human mind needs, suppose we are giving some information, human mind is very eager to know the things. Suppose somebody says don't do this, then you will ask the question why should you not to do, and you will try to find out the reason why. So in this way human mind is very curious. Human mind will not calm whenever he should not get alone information about this thing. So he says that to understand the opposites, like true, false, good, bad, in order to understand the truth nature of the thing, one needs to know both true and false, similarly good and bad. So human mind need the all on information, so to make his mind calm. So here says that if you want to understand any concept, any term, that time you have to know the information about about the truth also, and about the false also, about the good also, and about the bad. Means in all the angles information human mind should get. This method of analyze, which is based on the opposite, is known as dialectics. So dialectics means discussion. In the methodology, a theory is proposed at the beginning which is called thesis. So here it says that opposites sides study is very important to know about the things, and in it is proposed a theory. The theory is called thesis. Then another theory is proposed which is contrary to the thesis. It is called antithesis. So another is contrary thesis also came into front, that is the antithesis. After a thought logical discussion, after a thorough logical discussions of both, new thesis is proposed which includes a gist of both thesis and antithesis. This process of arriving at a new thesis is called synthesis. So in the thesis we have studied both the sides, opposite answer and negative also, and the antithesis we have studied also this sides which is opposite to that thesis. So now after a lot discussion, thorough discussion, logical discussion, after that they came to the conclusion that there should be another thesis which is the gist of the both, mixture of the both. That thesis is called synthesis. So now children, in our next session we will study the another scholar, that is the Leopold Wolfrank. So that we'll see tomorrow. So all the information which I have given today, you again once read it carefully. Thank you very much.